Okay, guys, how are you? I hope you're fine wherever you are. I'm sorry, didn't finish my video nicely, which I have been recording for the previous sessions or previous slides. So I'm very sorry for that. All right, my system here allows me only 15 minutes recording time per session. So I'm sorry for that. All right. We discussed certain macroeconomic policy objectives, namely economic growth, low inflation, low unemployment. Okay. Some have got full employment as an objective, although that objective is normally, uh, difficult to, you know, attain or to achieve. So the most feasible objective is of low unemployment or low inflation. Okay, now we also have an objective for balance of payments stability. Here, the government will be aiming to maintain a sustainable level of international trade and capital inflows. Remember, uh, the international trade platform should be sustainable. In as much as we need more foreign currency, we also have to ensure that we protect the domestic market. All right, we don't want to, of course, excessively export our goods and services because the domestic market would also require those services or those goods. So we want to ensure that the local market or the local people also enjoy those services. So the government will be trying to balance um, the, you know, international trade aspect. Okay. Um, There's also an objective for equitable distribution of income. If you still remember in your earlier studies, taxation is actually a very important tool to ensure that there is equitable distribution of wealth between the uh, the people in an economy, okay, or between the residents of an economy or of a certain country. Okay, so the government would be trying to ensure that wealth is equitably distributed amongst the people or the population. So through the use of the fiscal policy, the government would be achieving that objective. Lastly, there is an objective for environmental sustainability. Here, the government will seek a balance uh, for economic growth with environmental protection. We do not want to become richer or wealthier at the expense of the environment. Remember, in recent times, there is this aspect of climate change. All right. So if we continue to degrade our environment or cutting down trees and so forth, in the longer term, we are going to cry when the climate will never be favorable. We know of the pandemic, of the cyclone in Mayotte, okay, a French colony in the Indian Ocean there, where, because of this climate change, there was a terrible cyclone this year. I mean, actually, it's last year in December 2024, where most of the people a lot of people lost their lives. Some were injured. Houses were destroyed owing to that cyclone. So the government will be trying to ensure that whatever operations or business operations that are taking place in an economy, they are environmentally sustainable. Now, determinants of business activity. If you still remember, I tried to define what a determinant is. So let me again reiterate that definition. Okay, I highlighted that there is no common definition for a determinant. Okay, if we are in mathematics, would be trying to come to a certain definition, but that could be different from those who are in the business area. Okay, but specifically in our context, a determinant is actually a factor that affects the occurrence of something, okay, or that affects the outcome of something, right? So in the context of business activity, we are looking at those factors that affect or that drive uh, businesses or that drive the existence of business. All right, so here are the key factors. Number one, consumer spending. The primary driver of economic activity in most economies is consumer spending. Why are we calling it the primary driver? Let me look for a pen. Sorry. Um, Let me have a pen here. Okay. Uh, Consumer spending is considered a primary driver of economic activity because by the end of the day, if you start a business, you want people to buy your things. So the attitude of consumers in buying your things determine the survival of your business in the longer term. So in an economy where people love to spend, then businesses thrive. So if you are an individual in an economy and are influencing people not to spend but just to keep their money under the safes or under their pillows, you are actually doing a disfavor to the business. You are killing the business economy. You are destroying it. Why? Because if people do not go and buy goods from OK or from TM Hyper or Pick and Pay, by the end of the day, those shops are going to close. All right. Or if customers want to buy, but they are buying outside of those shops, by the end of the day, those shops are going to close. So consumer spending is actually a determinant of business activity. The other determinant is investment. This is spending by businesses on new equipment, technology, and expansion. So if businesses continue to replenish their capital expenditure or their machinery, or to build new office complexes or factories and so forth, they will be making investments. All right, those ones are called investments in economics. Why? Because we want to ensure the longer term survival of the business through building new factories or acquiring new machinery or replenishing our buildings or expanding the business franchise throughout a certain region or throughout the country. That's an investment. Then government spending. This is when the government spend money on goods and services or infrastructures like roads and so forth, or social programs, like for example, where they call for cholera vaccination or for the COVID pandemic, those programs which are conducted in our villages or in our communities. Those programs are what are called government spending. Government will be incurring an expenditure to ensure that the local population are catered for, or they receive medical services, or they are driving their vehicles on good roads, for example, tarred roads. All right, so that's government spending. What about net exports? This is the difference between exports and imports of goods and services. All right, like I said, when we were talking of the balance of payment issues, where we say that we need a stability where we do not want more exports, in as much as they bring us, foreign currency. By the end of the day, we also need to, ensure that the local market does not suffer. However, we have to ensure that the difference between exports and imports are those goods from outside or goods from other countries. Exports are goods which are sold to other countries. All right. So the difference should be a net export position. A net export position is where the exports are larger than the imports. We want that to be positive. Why? Because we also, by the end of the day, we want to be in a net export position or in a position where we'll be having enough foreign currency reserves. But we don't want much of it by the end of the day. Is that true? I know you're going to say no, but you realize that politically we also need our local population to enjoy some of the services we produce. Are you going to be happy if we export all the maize in Zimbabwe and then we import the rice from Kenya or that yellow maize from Kenya? You are a Zimbabwean, you are used to white maize. So this is why we are saying that we need to ensure that we need to have a balanced, balance of payment position. All right, we want a balance of international trade. All right, I'm sure you got the idea. Now, confidence. Consumer and business confidence significantly influence spending decisions. If we are confident of the market, we are going to participate in it. For example, if it is a banking market, if we are confident that if I put my US dollar in my bank account, tomorrow I'm going to find the same US dollar, I'm going to, to bank my money. But if I don't have confidence that I will find the money as it is tomorrow, then I'm not going to participate in the banking market. So confidence actually affects the survival of a business activity. If customers are confident, they will travel as far as from Zarabani to Harare to buy something because they are confident that in Harare they are going to find whatever they want. So confidence actually is a very important variable. Lastly, monetary and fiscal policies. These ones affect, interest rates, taxation, and public spending. All right. So they also, affect how the businesses are going to survive. For example, if interest rates are too high, it means by the end of the day, borrowing, is going to be very, very expensive. Nobody's going to, to like to borrow, right? Because the interest rates or interest charges on borrowing are going to be very high. All right. So if people are not borrowing, it also means that they are going to have, low disposable incomes. They no longer have the money in their pockets because the banks are expensive. All right. So that will affect their spending attitude or spending power. They're not going to buy things from those shops because they don't have money. And it's very difficult to get the money. Similarly, if taxation is increased, it means by the end of the day, their disposable income or the net income they get from their salaries is going to be very, very low. Again, that is going to impact on their spending attitude. They're not going to go to the shops because their disposable incomes are so low. Public spending as well is also going to be affected. Public spending is the same as government spending. All right? Government spending is also going to be affected by these policies. If there is a high taxation, it means that the government will get more money and public spending is going to increase. And the vice versa is also true. The converse is also true. All right.